All right, everyone. Hello. I hope you're all doing well today. Just a reminder that I will be out today, tomorrow, and Friday, so I will not see you guys again until Monday. Uh, but I'm going to ask you to go ahead and get out your Grow notes. We're going to do week 10, day 3 together here in just a moment. You also need to have your thesis statement notes, which would be under the screen. There's a sheet up underneath the screen, and another sheet, which is the Telltale Heart murder trial, also called the Raft Report. Okay, so there's 2 sheets underneath the screen. Hopefully you grabbed those. If not, make sure you get a copy, please. Coming up this Friday, the 5th, you'll take your Grow 9 and 10 quiz and make sure you turn in your Grow 9 and 10 homework. That is whether you do the paper copy or the IXL. So if you do the paper copy, just make sure you turn it into the bin on Friday, please. If you do the IXL, skills HH.8 and DD.2, you don't have to do anything but finish those to a 90%, and I will be able to log in and see your scores. Okay, so that's kind of the agenda for today and for the week. We're going to start with our grammar rule. So if you would go ahead and get into your Grow notes, week 10, day 3. If you don't have your notes, just follow along, please, because I am all out of extra copies. So we'll just go through these sentences. Sentence 1 says, during the storm, my dog and blank sought shelter in the garage. So remember that the trick is to take out the other person, in this case the animal and the word and ask yourself how you would say it without them. So during the storm, you would say, I sought shelter in the garage. Whoops, can't see through that. So during the storm, my dog and I sought shelter in the garage. We'll do a line right there. All right. So number 2, you may borrow my bike as long as you return it to blank. So in this sentence, again, there's no one in this sentence to say who it would be, but you would just say to return it to me. If this sentence said something like, you may borrow my bike as long as you return it to my sister and me, then you would still say me. Guys, I'm struggling here. So you may borrow my bike as long as you return it to me. Just do this. Ta-da. This is easier. All right. Number 3. Grandma asked my brother and blank to buy cherry cough drops while we were at the drugstore. So in this case, we would take out my brother and we would say Grandma asked me to buy cherry cough drops while we were at the drugstore. So this is going to be Grandma asked my brother and me. All right, and lastly, although Mr. Grubbs shot us several stern looks, Liz and blank continued knitting during the boring lecture on historical documents. So if we took out Liz and, we would say, although Mr. Grubbs shot me several stern looks, I continued knitting during the boring lecture. So in this case, it's going to be Liz and I. Okay, so you should have I for number 1, me for number 2, me for number 3, and I for number 4. Okay. Once you have all this written down, go ahead and put your notes somewhere safe, somewhere where you won't lose them, so you can study for your quiz on Friday. All right. From here, as you're putting your notes away, I need you to take out this sheet you picked up when you walked in. This is writing a killer thesis statement. I'm going to talk through this. Okay, so these are called skeletal notes. So you're just going to fill in the blanks. Everything you need to write down is going to be bolded and underlined in the slideshow that we go through. Again, as needed, just pause, have your teacher pause the video if you need to catch up, but please try to follow along while we go through this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is writing a killer thesis statement, which relates to our story that we read by Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart. So you guys may have learned about thesis statements in the past, so hopefully this is just a review. If not, this will be a pretty good way for you to learn about thesis statements. So remember, you're just writing in the blanks on your sheet what's bolded and underlined. Everything should go in order. So a thesis statement is one sentence that tells the reader the main points your essay covers and in what order they will appear in your essay. So uh, basically, when you go to an amusement park, you probably use a map to try to plan out your day. So you take the amusement park map, you look at all the major rides that you would like to ride or the major places you'd like to stop, and you kind of plan your day based on where they are in the park. Because it wouldn't make sense for you to go all the way to one end of the park just to go all the way back to the other side for a different ride and then go all the way back to the other end of the park. So you plan your trip based on where things in the amusement park are. Same thing if you go to the grocery store or if your parents go to the grocery store, they're going to make a list and they're going to try to, in most cases, I would say, they'll try to put the items on their list in order of where those items are in the store because you wouldn't want to be running back and forth throughout the store because that's going to make your trip a lot less organized. You're going to be doing a lot more running, and it's just going to be really inconvenient for you. So a thesis statement kind of works in a similar way because it tells the main points of your essay and it's going to tell your reader what order those points are going to appear in. Okay, so think of it as like a roadmap. So it's your entire paper squeezed into one sentence at the end of the introduction paragraph. So it's going to be the last sentence in your intro. And again, it's the roadmap that guides your entire essay. It lets your reader know what's coming and when to expect it. Another key point to point out with this slide is that it's a thesis statement. So a statement is singular, meaning it's just one, and it says here that it's one sentence. So it's going to sound like a long sentence, but it's one sentence. Okay, and we'll talk more about that here in a few minutes. Go ahead and pause if you need to. So the second box on your sheet is it says that a thesis statement includes your distinct standpoint on a subject. So that's kind of like your opinion. And then also a brief summary of your position, argument, or what will be discussed throughout your essay. So basically, after we read your thesis statement, we should know what the prompt was asking you, we should know your opinion on it, and we should know your three, or at least three of your thoughts on that topic. Okay, go ahead and pause if you need to. FAQs on thesis statements. So you don't have to write anything down for this slide. This is already on your sheet. FAQs stands for frequently asked questions. So the first question, does every essay need a thesis statement? The answer is yes, every essay needs a thesis statement. Where does the thesis statement belong? So we just mentioned that it's going to be the very last sentence in your introduction paragraph. So you will have a hook, which grabs your reader's attention, a sentence or two that transitions to your thesis, and then your thesis statement. And then the last question, can it be longer than one sentence? The answer is no, it cannot. It is one sentence. It is a thesis statement. So one sentence. Again, it's going to look like a long sentence, but that's okay. So the thesis statement layout, you're going to restate the prompt and then give your stance in the first part of the sentence. The second part of the sentence is going to include your three reasons that you will use throughout your essay to prove your stance. So each one of these reasons will be a full body paragraph. In today's essay, the assignment that you're going to get, it's a shortened essay. It's going to only be 3 paragraphs total instead of 5 paragraphs total. So in this case, your 3 reasons will be 1 body paragraph. Typically, however, on a normal essay and like on the essay you'll write in March for the writing SOL, you're going to have 5 paragraphs: an introduction, your first body paragraph, second body paragraph, third body paragraph, and then your conclusion. And each of those body paragraphs are going to come from your thesis statement. So your first reason would be your first body paragraph, your second reason would be your second body paragraph, and your third reason would be your third body paragraph. Okay, so for today's purposes, you're just going to keep those 3 reasons in your 1 body paragraph. Just keep them in the order that you put them in your thesis statement. So here are some examples. You should have these on your sheet. The first one says, if I could travel anywhere in the world, I would visit Paris, France, so that I could tour the Louvre Museum, visit the Eiffel Tower, and explore various cafes. Okay, so this prompt, we can assume that this prompt probably asked if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why? So we have that here. Came from the prompt, if I could travel anywhere in the world. Okay, so that's how you restate the prompt in your thesis statement. Then they have their stance. I would visit Paris, France. Okay, so that's the first part of the sentence. Then they have their 3 reasons. So that I can tour the Louvre Museum, that would be body paragraph 1, visit the Eiffel Tower, that would become body paragraph 2, and explore various cafes, which would become body paragraph 3. Okay, so topic, your opinion, and your 3 reasons: green, yellow, orange, and purple. The next example says students should be allowed to use their cell phones in school because they assist the student with classwork, can be used as an organizational tool with homework, and give the students a sense of safety after school. Okay, again, we can assume that this prompt probably asked, should students be allowed to use their cell phones in school, and why or why not? So this person put their stance and the prompt together. Students should be allowed to use their cell phones in school. So students using their cell phones in school is really the prompt or the topic. Should be allowed would be that person's opinion. Okay, so that's their stance. So topic opinion in red. Because they assist the student with classwork. Here's our first reason in green. This would become their first body paragraph. So you'd give examples of how your cell phone can assist you with classwork. Can be used as an organizational tool with homework. It would become the second body paragraph. And that would be talking all about how cell phones can be used as organizational tools with homework. Okay, and then lastly, in purple here, you'd have give the students a sense of safety after school. And that would be the third body paragraph. And it would be explaining how a cell phone can give students a sense of safety after school. How can it help students be safe? Okay, so these are just example sentences. These have nothing to do with what your report's going to be about today. Okay, these are just examples. So now you're going to practice yourself. So it's a sentence layout for a thesis statement. This is on the back of your notes sheet there. Make sure you write this down or fill in these blanks. It says to restate the prompt in your stance followed by 3 reasons. So you have been given a sentence frame here. I'm going to use that sentence frame to answer this prompt. So the prompt says, where is one place in the world you would like to visit? Explain why you'd want to visit this place and what you would want to do or see once you arrive. Include specific details and examples in your response. Okay, so for your thesis statement, I would like to visit blank so I can blank, blank, and blank. To fill in those blanks, and you can pause if you need to. Okay, so if I were to be filling this in for myself, I might say I would like to visit Germany so I can visit with my grandparents, introduce my daughter to my grandparents, and show my husband where I grew up. Okay, so that would be where I would like to visit and my 3 reasons why. Right? All right, go ahead and put your thesis statement notes to the side and pick up the other sheet you grabbed when you walked in, please. Go ahead and take out the sheet that looks like this. Okay, so this is one of the sheets you picked up when you walked in, the Telltale Heart Murder Trial. This is also going to be referred to as the Raft Report. So I'll show you this part first, and then I'll introduce to you the actual assignment. So this is called a Raft Report. Raft stands for Role, Audience, Format, and Topic. So you are going to pretend like your role is you are an expert psychologist called to testify in the narrator's murder trial. Okay, so you're an expert psychologist. Your audience is the judge or the jury. The format is you're writing a report that would be submitted to the court, and the topic, you're going to advise the court whether the narrator, the caretaker, is guilty of murdering the old man, or if he is not guilty by reason of insanity, using characterization descriptions and evidence from the text. So the characterization descriptions come from that little half sheet that we did on Thursday last week. I know that it's been a while since we've talked about these things, since you've had such a long break. It's been almost a week. So I will have materials posted to Google Classroom for you that you can access, which will include, I will add the characterization chart just in case you've lost yours. But you have some materials on Google Classroom under the Edgar Allan Poe category. Okay, so referring to this sheet, this is kind of the objectives and the directions that are going to walk you through what you need to do. Okay, so your objective is you are an expert psychologist called to testify in the narrator's murder trial. On Thursday, you were able to look at specific examples of whether the narrator was guilty of murder or if he was not guilty by reason of insanity. You must present your opinion and findings to the judge and jury in a report, advising whether or not you believe the narrator was sane or insane when the murder occurred. In your report, you must include at least 3 pieces of evidence from the story to make your case. Okay, so that's an important thing to note. You must include at least 3 pieces of evidence from the story to make your case. So the first thing you're going to start with is basically your thesis statement. So these 4 boxes that you fill in are going to become your thesis statement. So you're going to choose, do you think the caretaker is guilty of murder? So he knew what he was doing was wrong, things like he was covering his tracks, trying to hide it, or was he not guilty by reason of insanity? Okay, so that means he still committed the crime, but he was insane when he committed the crime and couldn't tell right from wrong, or was so driven by this old man's vulture eye that he could not decipher reality from his fantasy. Okay, so guilty of murder or not guilty by reason of insanity. And this is going to be where you fill in your 3 reasons, 3 pieces of evidence to support your position. These should come from the text. But there's a sort that we did on Thursday where we talked about murder or insane. That answer key is posted to Classroom, and you can use that as well. Okay, but there are 3 pieces from the story that support your position. After you've completed these 4 boxes, that's going to become your thesis statement. So this is how your essay is going to be broken down. It says, next, you should type a well-written report. This does not need to be a formal essay like 5 paragraphs, but you should include these things. So you will need 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph should be about 3 to 5 sentences total. So you're going to introduce the caretaker, tell us a little bit about him. You can give him a name. Edgar Allan Poe did not name these characters, so you could give the caretaker a name, you could give the old man a name, and then you need a thesis statement. So that's going to be your opinion and your 3 reasons that support it, which is going to come from right here. Your second paragraph should be about 5 to 7 sentences minimum. In the past, I've had lots of students who go over that minimum requirement. It's perfectly fine if it's longer, but it should not be any shorter than 5 to 7 sentences. So you're going to explain your 3 reasons. So your evidence from the story, explain how that supports your opinion. How does that support that the caretaker is guilty of murder or that he's not guilty because he was insane? Again, include your quotes and evidence from the story to support your findings and make sure you explain them. So don't just throw in quotes from the story, but also make sure you explain them. And then the third paragraph is your conclusion. That should be about 3 to 5 sentences again. You should have a reworded thesis statement. Reworded thesis statement does not mean you're copying and pasting your thesis statement. You're going to include basically the same ideas in the same order, but you're going to change your wording a little bit. So you might start with a transition like, to conclude, as you can see, as the evidence shows, the caretaker was guilty, not guilty of murdering the old man because, and then you'll have your 3 reasons again with slightly different wording, but do keep them in the same order. Then you'll need to have some kind of closing. The closing, I'll post something to Classroom for you for this as well. The closing should include some kind of summary, some kind of wrapping up of what you just explained to the judge and the jury. Okay, so this is not a persuasive piece. You're not trying to persuade the judge and the jury. You are just explaining to them why the caretaker is guilty of murder or why he's not guilty by reason of insanity. This is an expository report. So this is how this will be graded. You do not need to write anything here. I will fill this out when you turn your paper in. You'll get points for having your brainstorm sheet done. That is this paper here. So 5 points just for filling in those boxes. You'll get points for having your 3 paragraphs with all of the above requirements, meaning that you have at least the minimum number of sentences and everything else that it includes. You should have your reasons with specific evidence and quotes from the story that support your opinion. They need to be explained. And then grammar, spelling, and mechanics. So we are finishing up grammar rule number 10 this week, which means there are 10 grammar rules that we have reviewed. So you should be able to follow the proper grammar for at least those 10 grammar rules that we've discussed so far. use the spell check feature, and the mechanics are things like capitalization, punctuation, and things of that nature. Okay, so try to make sure that it is a polished report, meaning something that you would bring to a judge and a jury and they would be pleased with how it's been written. Okay, so that is how this will be graded, and this will be more than a classwork grade, okay, because we're spending 4 days on this. So once you filled in your brainstorm, this paper, then you're going to go into Google Classroom, and there's a document here for you that's going to look just like this. You are not going to fill anything in up here because this has already been done for you. All you're going to do is type in this response box. Okay, so that is the only thing you are going to do is type your 3 paragraphs in this box. Okay, so that is what you're working on today in class, tomorrow in class, and then Friday in class after your GROW quiz. On Monday, when I come back with all of you again, we will take time that day and I'll come around and help you if you need help. So that will be your last day in class. Monday will be your last day in class to work on this. And if you don't finish it by that point, then it will be homework due, let's say Friday, November 12th. Okay, so you have basically 3.5 class periods at this point to work on this and get this finished. Okay. Again, there are lots of resources posted to Google Classroom for you. You can send me an email. I don't know how quickly I'll be able to respond to you, but I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you are expected to work on this assignment and make sure you are getting it finished. Okay. So I will see you guys on Monday.